Hello people. Right, today I am going to be teaching you guys on just how to drift. Simply just how to drift. It applies to real life, in-game, whatever game. I've done BeamNG because BeamNG is generally the hardest one to master and it's pretty close to real life. That and Assetto Corsa. So pretty much I'm going to start off by teaching you guys how to get it into a drift without using your clutch, handbrake, no clutch kicks, no handbrakes, just on the power and just getting it into a flick, because a lot of people don't have handbrakes and don't have clutches. So the simplest way to do it would be just start cruising down the road, make sure you're in first person. So one of the things I generally suggest, have your force feedback over halfway, so you've got quite a bit of feel. This applies to any wheel, Logitech, Thrustmaster, Moser, Fanatec, whatever, okay? And what I would suggest, if you've got software that comes with presets, so downloading, well, choosing a preset, let's say AC Drift, Assetto Corsa Drift preset, stick it on that, because generally it will be alright on that. So the next thing is just go up to it, okay, just go around the corner, steer into it, get a feel. Make sure your tyre PSI is not too high, not too low. I can quickly show you what preset I'm running for my tyres. This is all my settings for this car. One of the easiest cars to drift in BeamNG. And then it's my final drive. I'm not running a supercharger, it's just naturally aspirated. And then if I go to my controls and my force feedback and all this, this is what I'm currently running. So just if you want to look at this and copy it, feel free. So pretty much start cruising down the road, turn left, turn right, and then turn left again with a bit of power, and that will kick the rear end out. You don't need to use any throttle at all. So pretty much you just keep repeating that. And then counter steer. Include a counter steer into it. You swish it backwards and forwards. Just get the feel of it. So if you're steering, if you're drifting to the right, turn left. Keeps it in a steer. But if the car starts coming out of that steer, so I'm steering right currently, but I don't want it to dive towards that bus stop, so I'm going to turn it right again, and then left, and it straightens it up. If I need to slow the drift down a bit and get the front end back round, stop the rear end of the car spinning out from behind me, bit more power, and you're using the power to steer the car also. Bit of brake, slow it down in that corner. I'm in second gear at the moment, so I'm counter steering. Counter steer. I'm just letting it do its thing. One-handed. Come through this corner, power. Counter steer. Counter steer to the left. That's all it is. Don't be revving also. This is what a lot of people do. Just constantly revving it out. You're not in control. If I keep my foot pinned, completely out of control, but if you blip the throttle, breaking the traction of the tyres. I mean, I can come up into this corner here, flick it, bit of power, and the car's just in a slide. And I can counter steer, let off the throttle, and brake, and it straightens the car back up. People lay onto it too much all the time. I see videos all the time of people just constantly, like, even in real life, just on the power, they're losing control, and they don't know what they're doing, and then they lose control of it and bin it into a tree. That's all you do. And also, the lower the gear you're in, the tighter the drift is going to be. So if you're trying to drift around a really tight object, say, kick it in. If I'm trying to keep a really tight drift on the throttle, blipping it, just blipping. Counter steering in, counter steering out as it comes back round. Counter steering in and then out. So that was a really tight drift. If I tried to do that in second gear, I'd be sliding out into the curves on the side of the road. And you don't want to be doing that. So, but you can. This is being in a higher gear allows you to do a higher speed swooping drift. Okay. Okay, so the smaller the gear you're in, so first gear, the tighter the drift is going to be. So for a turn like this, ideally, be in second gear. If you really want to, you can do it in first. But as you see, it's revving out, and it's not as smooth. It's once you get to your top of your rev range and it's on the limiter, your engine's not producing power. You're bouncing on the limiter. That's where your engine stops producing the power. That's where it drops off on the curve. You're going up on the power and then down. So you need to make sure you are not pushing it too high on the RPM. So now I'm in third. I'm going to just give it some power, get it unstable, off and on the power. Look at my rev gauge, speedo. I'm sorry about the lag spikes. BeamNG's been a bit funny recently. Third gear. Bit of brake to slow it down, otherwise I would have gone off the road there. Backwards and forwards. Just practice going down the road, swishing as. Another good thing is sticking a tyre in the middle of the road. Do a drift around it. Yeah, I'll do an actual. Bit more angle, bit more power, and then the rear end kicks out. Let it correct itself. There we go. So I'm just letting the steering do what it wants to do. That was all on the power. I will literally move my foot away from my clutch so you can see that I am not clutch kicking it. I'm just putting it into a Scandinavian flick. What I'm doing is, this is called a Scandinavian flick. So you're getting the car unstable, it breaks traction, you give it power, and then it pulls out. So if I want to do a Scandi flick to the right, I'll turn right, left, and then right again, and that would put it into a flick that way. If I want to go left, I do left, right, and then left again. Power, counter steer out of it. Always counter steer out of the drift. Once you feel the rear end of the car in a drift, counter steer. And then as soon as you think it's going too far into the drift, counter steer into it and flick it back out again, and it will correct itself. All the way up and down this road. There we go. Just letting the car slide, counter steering. But remember, the faster you go, and your counter steering, the car becomes more and more unstable. Second, stick it in second gear. And look, Scandi flick. This doesn't have a lot of power, so you've got to really flick it in. See, I'm at top of the red range, it's not doing anything. That was all on the power, no clutch. Look, run out of power then. You can see it, as soon as I went up to the next gear, it started kicking out again. Oh, and then BeamNG starts its own drifting thing. That does lag out your game sometimes. Now drop off the power, back down into first. Bit in the power, and then it brings the front end into the drift. And then look, flick it out and into the corner. Uh-oh. There we go. That's a mistake that happens, drifting. Counter steer, and then counter steer to the left, counter steer to the right. But because I've got force feedback, if you have your force feedback too low, you're not going to put any... It's just not going to switch back on you. The higher it goes, generally, but you want to be past halfway. And ideally, you do not want power steering. And then, obviously, you've got your handbrake. You can get that into a slide if you need a bit more angle. That's all the handbrake's for. If you're initiating a drift at a really high speed and you do not want a Scandinavian flick, you pull the handbrake and obviously pull your clutch in and then kick it back out, which I did not do. But I can also come to a stop here in second gear, rev it up, drop the clutch, counter steer. Look how early I counter steered into that. Third gear, I can pop the clutch, pop the clutch, pop the clutch, pop the clutch, and it stops the drive, and then the brutal power of the engine producing its power with the clutch not engaged snaps it back into play and breaks the traction. Clutch again. It's not got a lot of power, so I've got to really slam it on the clutch. Handbrake. Oh. And the more angle you get in the drift, the more traction it breaks. Really, this car's not got enough power to be doing these slides, really, because these are very counter steer. So that's all it is. This applies to real life. Look, handbrake, get bit more angle into it. But obviously, if you don't have a handbrake, that's fine. If you've got a clutch, even better. You can clutch kick. There we go. Bit of brake, come out, take it out of there. That's all it is. Very, very simple. It takes practice. It takes time. But that's all it is. Fourth. Here I'm going to need to slow down. It's going to get a bit tighter. Handbrake. Let off the clutch. There we go, because I was in too much of an angle. The rear end of the car was behind me, going that way. And I need to bring it back round. I could have tapped on the brake. Bring it into the slide. Drop it down a second. Counter steer. Counter steer left. Then right. Then left again. That's all you've got to do. Ideally, do not drift in third person. If you're practicing your angle in a big wide open car park, fair enough. But swish, swish, back round again. Bit of brake and it brought it back round just in time to not absolutely bin it into the curb. But clutch in. There you go. Simple as that. Pull it into my house here. There we go. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that this has been useful to you guys. And have a happy new year. Take care.